Hello guys, and welcome to another episode of tutorial on SailFlow 2.0 add-on for Blender. Today I'm going to discuss how to design a competition sail, and in particular the design of the J70 main sail. Competition sail, I mean a sail which has to be designed according to specific characteristics to be allowed to sail in a certain class for competition. I selected the J70 class because it's a class which is very much fashionable nowadays with a very good level of competition and competitors. Now, if I scroll in the class rules that can be downloaded from internet, you can see there is a section called G, which contains all the measures that you have to comply with when you make a sail to be able to use it in competition. Here you see the main sail, where you have reported the main measures that you have to comply with, which is the leech length, the luff length, the foot length, and the top width. In addition, there are also a number of measures that basically frame what is the maximum curvature of the leech and basically what is the maximum surface in square meter of the sail itself. So let's open up the Blender and look very well at all those numbers which determine what type of sail and the measures that I can introduce. I go to the tool and press Shift A and I go to the menu Add a Sail. You see there is a tab opening on the bottom, as you see in other videos, which contains a parameter of the sail. And now what I have to do is that I have to input in this set of numbers the right value corresponding to the class rule of the J70. In particular, for instance, the luff length is 7974 millimeter, which I type exactly in millimeter. And then I have to type the add length, which is 364 millimeter, and then I will actually add what is the base length or the foot length in this case, as is mentioned in the J70 class rules. Okay, as you see now I have the shape of the sail there, and the leech length is automatically calculated, which is not 8.3 meter but 8.5 meter. So we are at the moment not compliant with the class, but we will look at it later. For the moment, let's stay with this shape. I move now to wireframe view mode, as you see here, because it's more convenient for me, at least what I prefer. And the next step I have to take is to go to edit mode, to try to start fitting the measurement of the class rule into my sail. So first of all, I have to go away from object mode. So I select my object, I go to edit mode, and now I can select edge, vertices, and faces. I go to edge selection mode, I select the leech, and I subdivide it in two pieces. Now the edge is in two different pieces, as you can probably see from the yellow and white highlight, but I need to subdivide it in more. So I select another edge, right click the menu, subdivide, and now also this edge is divided. I need one extra point in the edge which is below. So the next step that I have to do is to go select the edge and right click and subdivide again. Okay, now I have enough points. To be able to see the measurement, what I advise is to use an add-on which is by default in the Blender distribution but is not selected. So go to Preferences, Add-on, and search for an add-on called Measure It. You see here, I have it already selected, so it's usable, but you have to select it if you haven't. Go to the tab on the right, which if it's not enabled, you have to click N. And then you will see there is a Measure It tool tab that you have to select to expand. And there you can click the X and Y location of dots. For instance, this vertex I just selected, I click X and Y, and I see is value in X and Y. Since my sail is aligned to the X and Y axis of this plane, this is exactly the measurement of the class rule. To make it quicker and more visible, I just change the color for each couple of measurement of each vertex. It looks cooler, it looks nicer, but it's not more than that, than show you how to use this tool. Another thing that I can do is, for instance, when a measurement is in a position that I don't like, I can move it up and down. There is a specific YouTube video on how to use Measure It, and if you're interested, you can go and look into it. Okay, fine. Now I need to know that at quarter width, I need to have 2 meter 570 millimeter, for instance, and half width another measure, and 3/4 width another measure. So the laugh length is 8 meter, and I have to calculate how much it is a quarter. So I divide it by a quarter, and 1993 is a number I have to remember. I click in the first vertex which I created. I go here under item, and here I can input 1993, which by the way is already there. Okay, but I type it anyway just to see how it is done. And then for the X vertices, I have to remember what was the number that I want to add there. So I would have to look back to the J70 class rules. Okay, so I go there and I type it there, 2.570 meter. Okay, so the edge is moved. I go to the second edge and I do exactly the same. I look in the book, it is 2134 millimeter, and this time is a half, so it's 2 times the quarter, so it's 193 millimeter by 2, and I can type this multiplication directly in the Y box. And as far as X is concerned, or width is concerned, in this case is 2.134 meter, or 2134 millimeter. I do the same for the last vertex, so this time is 3 times 1993 multiplied by 3, and then in X I have to input the number, which is 1425. Okay, now I have a sail which is compliant to the rule. I do have one more rule that I have to respect, which is the one called upper width that you see in the class rules. So what it says that there is a point on the leech which is equidistant between the 3/4 and the top of the sail, which has to be not broader than 880 millimeter. So I take the last edge, I subdivide it, I select the vertex, and now I want to display what is the distance between this vertex and the 3/4 width vertex, basically, and the top edge as well. So I select these 2 points, I press Shift to select both, and I click segment. When I do that, the measure it add-on show me this number, 1.13. I do the same selecting the other 2 vertices. So I select the first, I press Shift, and I select the second. I press segment, and I do have it. Of course, since I have subdivided, the software has already divided into exactly equal pieces. So when I press X, it will show me what is the actual length, which is 89. Okay, I can select this vertex, and I see there is 0.89 is basically almost 88, but to be sure, I just put 88 millimeter. And here I have it. Okay, now my sail is fully compliant with the J70 class rules. Good. I can therefore go to the next step. I can hide this measure because I don't need them anymore. With this push button I can show and hide, and I go to the next step. Alright, so next step is to design the panel of the sail. This has to be done in manual mode, and is important when you design a competition sail because you want to have full control of the design of the panel. Here in this slide you see a suggested number of keystroke and shortcut that I will suggest you memorize because it will speed up your design flow considerably. In this picture you see an example of what is a crosscut design for the main sail, which is a number of semi-horizontal panels which creates the shape of your sail. It's not ideal, but I think it's more than enough if you're not really a super designer of sail, honestly. This is an example of how you have to select the panel size compared to the sail cloth size. The panel size has to be slightly smaller than the sail cloth size because you have to give an allowance by a curvature that the panel will have when it's projected in 2D. How much its allowance will be, the difference between the panel size and the sail cloth size, is up to you, but I normally give something like 10 centimeter, and typically is more than enough for what I need. Let's go back to Blender therefore. To do the next step, we have to go in edit mode. And to go in edit mode, you have to press tab. When you are in edit mode, you can use a tool called a knife tool, which can be called in using the letter K or going to this symbol over there. This will literally cut the panel like a knife and creating basically the panel you want. You do that by clicking on an edge and then moving your cursor to the other edge and clicking again. Once you do that and you press enter, a cut is created and you have it there. Now you will have to do it a number of times up and down in your sail, and you can select the size of this panel in this case and the inclination of the panel, which is typically 90 degrees with a leech at every point. But this is a long process and honestly is a bit boring and doesn't produce good results. So what I would suggest to do is to use a different method, which includes using some features of Blender itself. Okay, so let's go back to object mode and create a square. So Shift A, mesh, plane. Now we have a square. It's completely flat. And when we go to items, we will see that this square is 2 meters by 2 meters. This represents my SailFlow. So in X, I can put something I want, like 5 meters, but in Y, I put the size of the panel I want. In this case, 0.7 meter, assuming that I have the SailFlow, which is 80 centimeters. Now I have to repeat this shape vertically a number of times, and I use this feature, which is array modifier. I go to this wrench key there, and in the add modifier, I select this array modifier. I go to the offset and I put 010, and then I increase the number count. And what I have now, and I select this to be able to see through, I have something I can rotate with R, and basically is where my sail will be cut in panels. I can move it up and down with G in case I want to put it in a specific position, but that will be enough. I press Shift and I click on the sail, and then therefore I will have both this set of panel and the sail selected. I press Tab and I go to edit mode. I press F3 and I type knife project. This will basically allow this set of stripe to cut through the sail. I go back to object mode, I select this object just created, X to delete. And now I have my sail cut in panel. Okay, this is very quick and is not and give precise effect, but precise distances in the panel. But I still have the problem, you see, of those edges which I created when I wanted to be compliant with the rule, and I want them to be removed because I will not be able to do anything like that with my SailFlow. It will be something very funny to be seen. It will not stay rigid. To do that, I go to edit mode. I go to, first of all, I go to another tool, which is not knife, but selection tool. I press 1 to go to edge. I select an edge, and a vertex that I want to remove, and then dissolve vertex. And then now I have a completely smooth sail. The other point that I want to be sure of is that my panel are perpendicular to the leech in every point. And to do that, I select the vertex, then twice G, and the vertex move along the edge it belongs to. And in this way, I can adjust the inclination of my panel to follow through the leech inclination. Okay, I just found a vertex which shouldn't be there. Okay, this is something you can do as much as you want, trim as much as you want. You can change size of the panel depending from where you are in the sail. This is completely your decision. One point that remains to be checked also is how much is the leech length now. You remember when we made the sail, the leech length was not the correct one. And to do that, first of all, I select all the horizontal lines and I press mark seam, and then to do that I have to select all the edges which are on the leech and use measure tools once more. To do that, I go to edge selection, the last one with pressing Control, and I select everything in between, and then I go to show tool and I remove everything that was all because it's not accurate anymore, and I press segment with the sum of A, and when I go here I see that my reach is 8.4 meter, while the standard said it should not be more than 8.3 meter. So the best choice I have is to raise a bit the last part of the sail. So I go select the edge, double G, and I raise it a bit. In this way, you see in the measure here is 8.3 meter, that is more than enough, and I've done it. Okay, so now I can remove everything because I don't need it anymore, and I can go to the next step. So the next step is to add a curvature to the mast. I don't say that you need it, but in case you need it, this is how you should be doing it. The first step in this is to create a number of subdivision of the sail and triangulate them. To do that, I go to the wrench key, and when the object is selected, and in add modifier, I select the subdivision modifier. Then I select the triangulate modifier, and which create a triangle for every subdivision because the subdivision come up before the triangulate. Okay, now let's see how I want to add a curve there. First of all, I go back to object mode because I need to create a curve. Press tab, shift A, curve, Bezier curve. I press the key R, Z90, rotate around Z or 90 degrees. I move the curve, I go to edit mode, I select the two control points, and with G I move them to the bottom and to the top of the sail. Once I've done that, I need to change the origin of the curve. To do that, I go back to edit mode, I select the bottom control, which is now exactly on the origin of my sail, and with the right button I go to the menu on snap, and I go cursor to the selection, and my cursor is moved to the selection. Tab, and I go to object mode, right click again, set origin to 3D cursor. Okay, now the origin of the curve and the origin of the sail are on the same point, which is basically the cross between X and Y. I remove the screen button, I gray the green bottom, so I don't see the subdivision anymore. And I select the full set of edges which are of the luff in the sail. I go to this small green icon, I press plus, and I say assign to the group of vertices all the vertices that belong to the luff, and I call it luff. Changing name is not necessary, but just for this example. Once I've done that, I can go back and go to my wrench tool again, and I select another modifier which is called curve. I tell that I want my object to follow the curve Bezier and curve like that, but only the vertices that belong to the luff. And this I press vertex group luff, and as you see, only that bit is now curved. Once I've done that, now I can modify my curve, go to edit mode, and rotating this with R to have the sail follow the curvature of the curve itself. And here I can do what I want. Of course, I can put the curve up and down in the middle, and when I zoom I see this little square which are basically 10 centimeters each, and I know how much actually the sail has been curved. So this is a very flexible tool and a very useful tool to bend your sail on the mast. It can be used for other parts of the sail as well. And the Bezier curve can be modified in many ways. You will see several tutorials on internet. I don't want to repeat it here. I just give you an example here. But the next step that you want to do is basically applying all these modifiers that we have done, we have made on this sail in the right order, and the curve has to be on the top. So with this little arrow you move the curve as the top modifier, and then you can, okay, let's make visible subdivision again, and then we apply them one after the other. Voila, and now our sail is curved the way we wanted and is subdivided in a mesh the way we wanted. We go back to SailFlow tools, we go to profile generation, and we apply the number we want. And we also press keep measure. In this way, the sail, when it's flattened, will stay within the measure of the standard. Let's have a look how it is with a camber of 7 and a position of the camber at 20%. I think it looks okay. We can select the curve and delete it, X delete, and now we have it. Okay, we are ready to develop. Go to edit mode. You don't need to select anything specific. You press develop all and you have all your panel after a few seconds. Okay, you can go here, scroll down. Let's examine now how to make a crosscut sail. You see here in the picture we have two examples on the left and right of two different pattern of radial sail. I would suggest we start with the left one where we have less panels to assemble together, so less work. Let's go back to our Blender sail design, the starting of it, and we go to edit mode and we have to select the knife tool. To help the knife tool to work with, I suggested that you go to the top where there is this small magnet and you tell that you want to stick to edges. So you press K to get the knife tool again, and you go to the first, for instance, element that you want, where you want the crosscut to end, the radial to end and the crosscut to start. You press enter and you have it. Okay, then in the middle of it you have to draw a line to the bottom of the sail, but the best thing to do is to select the edge and press subdivide, so you have two exact same length segments. Okay, then you press K again and you have the knife and you go to the base of the sail, you click, you press enter and you have it divided in two. So now let's do the left part of it. You see it's a number of arrows. If you look at the right side, the design on the right side, that irradiate from the lower corner, which is there, and go to this middle line. We can use a knife as I'm doing now, and I can cut a number of panels like that. But the best thing is to go and subdivide that edge in two, and subdivide also the other edge in two. Okay, and in this way I have already a vertex. So I select the other vertex, keeping shift pressed, and then J, and in this way I have created the cut in the panel. I do the same for all the other couple of vertices. And now I have to do this in the middle. I select it, I go to subdivide, and this time I want to have more than one subdivision. So you see this small panel on the left, I go there and I say I want two. I go to edge selection mode, pressing 1, and then I connect two edges at a time, this one and the corner one, and J. And I do the same for all. Okay, now I have created the lower part of the sail. Let's go to the crosscut, the crosscut on the top, which I have to do manually. So with the knife tool, I click on one side, I click on the other side, I press enter, and I have the cut. I do that also for other bit. K to go to knife mode. Oh, in this case actually I subdivided to make it easier to find the middle of it. Click, press enter, and I have it. And the same I do here. Click, enter, and I have the cut. This top part I want to do it radial as well as I did the lower part. I select the edge on the top. I go to the right menu and subdivide. Then I do the same on the bottom, and then I select 1 for the two selecting edge vertices. I select the first vertices and the second, keeping press shift and then J to unite them. I subdivide the which is created in the middle, and I connect the vertices and even the one on the top. And I do the same for the right side. Select the two edges and click J. While I'm doing that, I'm noticing there is one extra vertices on the edge, which is just right there. I click on it and I say dissolve, so it's gone. So now I have the basic design of my sail. Let's do now the subdivision as you see in the crosscut example. So I have to go to the modifier and add a subdivision modifier, and after all a triangulate modifier. So range key, add modifier, subdivide, simple. Okay, and then we can add the subdivision. I realize I did not create the seam, and therefore I have to do that. I disable the modifier temporarily. I go to the edit mode, I select everything, and then I type F3 and the command mark seam. Everything is a seam. Let's remove the seam from the peripheral, which is not necessary, but just to show how to do it. I click on one of the edges. I go to select edge loop, and part of it is selected. Then I go to the edges and I say clear seam. Then I go to the first edges there, pressing Ctrl to other edges, so my selection follow, and again I go to the edge menu and I say clear seam. Okay, now only the internal edges are now seams, which is elegant but not necessary. Fine, let's go back to our modifier. Remember the triangulate? I have also to add triangulate, and now I can decide to have more or less dense mesh with a viewport. I will not bend the mast in this case because it's just a repetition of the same process you have seen before. So I'm not going to repeat for that. Here I want to have a more thicker mesh, and apply everything, and I go back to my SailFlow tools to add the profile. Okay, SailFlow profile generator is probably a dense mesh. It will take a bit more time, it will be more delay between your command and execution. 10% of camber and 20% of position. Maybe camber is too much. Let's go back and put 7. And remember to click keep measures. So the sail, when it's projected in 2D, will have the same measure that is requested by the rules. And I also to use the SailFlow tool to open the skirt of the sail. Okay, that's how it looks like as a profile. It looks good to me. Or maybe you can modify it even further, but let's develop the panel. Let's go top mode, let's go to edit mode and click develop all. It will take a bit, and then we will have all the panels. So after that you only have to print the panel and stitch them together, and you have your sail. So we've come to the end of this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry for my words was not always professional. A stumble of my words, I repeat, I confuse edge with vertices and vertices with vertex. In any case, I hope this will help you to make a competition sail with SailFlow. Let me know how it's going, let me know your progress, and keep informed. I'm very curious about it. And stay tuned for more tutorial, and bye everybody.